6:30, call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mordini. Here. Sarchet.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Lane.
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. There have been no additions or corrections that I know of. Hearing the change. So need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Lane.
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council at this time?
Yeah,
Please stand up, state your name and address for the record.
I'm with Dennis Goring on 520 Whispering Pine here in Polk City. Just have a conversation. We like to talk about the entryway a little bit. I think some other neighbors here that like to talk about the entryway to Pine Ridge. I've talked to Gary and I've also talked to the DOT, and we need to see if we can figure out what to do about the entryway there, have it replaced once it's got turning lanes put in. So I don't know if we need to have an agenda item.
I'm going to just real quick refer you to Kathleen, our city engineer, who on the Pine Ridge.
Yeah, and
issue.
we did look at that. I apologize, I
Okay.
didn't bring that memo with me.
Got it right here.
Okay.
I just printed it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was actually done by Laura Lamberty from our
Okay.
office, so I would have got more up to speed. I know that she looked at it from SUDAS requirements in terms of clearances, site distance, and that kind of thing. Thank you.
I think the issue that we ran into, and I've tried to kind of prepare, just knowing that this was maybe coming up tonight, excuse me, was that 60% of that area is in DOT right-of-way, is my understanding. Also ran into some issue, and if I speak out of turn, tell me, but because the developer no longer being there, hadn't been maintaining it, various things that go with it. But then when we get into SUDAS as far as replacing it, really not an option there.
Yeah, it doesn't really meet code. There's the distance from edge of traveled way, you have to have 8-foot clearance is the minimum acceptance. 10-foot clearance is what is recommended, but that would mean, and the island is, I believe, 12 foot wide, 10 to 12 foot wide. We didn't, we were looking at aerials, we didn't go out there and, physically measure it. But with a 10 to 12 foot wide island and 8 foot acceptable on clearance, there's not a lot of room to do anything there. The site distance is not an issue, but then the other piece of it is if the island winds up being only in the city's right-of-way, then it's set back from the intersection, set back from the stop bar, so vehicles turning in don't see it as they're coming in. It's down the road, kind of at an unexpected location, so that can be somewhat of a hazard as well. And just because of where it's located, you'd have to essentially constructed in the DOT right away in order to alleviate that issue. So, but you've essentially got those are the two main issues with it. And then the third issue, I guess, would be the maintenance and who's responsible for maintaining it. Since it's in the city right away, and right now there's not an agreement in place in terms of who maintains the landscaping and the the wall if it needs any, if there's any issues with it. So,
from a SUDAS standpoint, is there not, I don't even know if it's possible, is there not like a grandfather clause where they're not reconstructing? I mean, it's there.
well, it's not there. Now it's not there now. And
Well,
the
if
DOT
the county moved it, the county, or whoever did the work moved it, they moved it. But what I'm getting at is, it's not like they're coming and asking to put a new island there. There's already
No,
nothing there.
it's not the same as zoning where you have an existing non-conforming use. It doesn't meet standards. And if you put it back now, you'd be rebuilding it, and it is being changed because 2/3 of it's being removed.
But this
because
isn't
it's
something,
right.
is this different than for, like, let's say we annex ag land, that we're allowing them to use it as ag land up until like 20,
That's
it's really
zoning.
incorporated into the city.
That's zoning, not SUDAS. It is two separate things. Zoning has very clear, in your zoning ordinance, there's whole sections on non-conforming, continuing non-conforming uses and use of properties when they're existing. So that it's not the same thing.
Okay.
Can I ask questions or not?
Yeah, state your name and address
Yeah,
for the
my
record.
name's Renee Rocco. I live at 400 Whispering Pine. So if it's not in line with your zoning, how did it get placed there in the first place? And then why is it that other locations such as the golf course has things like that? We bought our properties down in that development in good faith that it would continue to look beautiful and be a nice way to get into our neighborhood that exudes a prominence in the community. There are many, many examples of such all around in adjoining suburbs, Johnston, Ames. If you drive around, it's not unusual, it's a pretty typical thing for a neighborhood, and they're maintained by cities. We're not asking for it to be maintained, but some people are saying that they're not. But I live and work in Ames most of my career, and I tell you that the people who plant flowers in many of the gardens are volunteers. I know they hire some part-time help to maintain some of those kinds of locations, and all we want to know is how can we keep it? We'll do what it takes if the city will cooperate, but if you've already made up your mind there's no way, then how can we start some sort of grassroots?
And just to clarify, TCI, as one example, it is an easement on private property maintained by, not by the city, but by TCI, either homeowners association or the golf course. I'm not, some of it's
Golf course.
both. It's a kind of a combination, but certain signs I think are golf course, certain signs might be homeowners. Anyway, but it's not maintained by the city, and it is in a private easement. It's not within the public right of way, and particularly not between two sections of the street.
But you know there are those such very similar things in Johnston, Ames, other locations that have been allowed, and it was allowed when we bought our homes down there.
SUDAS was not in place at that point in time, is all I can tell.
I spoke with the DOT directly several different times, and they indicated that it did not need to be fully removed. That came as a request from Polk City, did not come from their request. And I've had that conversation twice with them now.
What was left in the conversations that we've had back and forth, what was left is what we looked into, which is the report that I just read today. I'll give you a copy of it. And the alternative that you have is placing one on either side of that, where that island is now, onto private property by easement or whatever, can be done. But some of the difference that you have here is now you have a turning lane coming off of a highway that is gaining traffic every day, and you're supposed to be calming traffic, not adding more obstacles for that traffic to go around.
When I spoke with the Molhoff, I think was the last name, or Molhoff, she indicated they were going to take about only 15 feet of the front of it. Is that not accurate?
I don't have a measurement in front of me.
There was a map in this, I didn't look at the distance on but again, I was measuring it, we were...
Only one part of it would come off, so I
Yeah,
can print it.
yeah, and we were taking it, assuming that none of it would be allowed in the DOT right-of-way, so we were pulling it back to where the DOT, where it becomes city right-of-way as opposed to DOT right-of-way.
Is there any way to, based on, I could be not understanding this correctly, but is there any way to either shorten the island or move it backwards per se, so that it meets within the city?
Well, and that's what we were saying, then you would remove about 2/3 roughly, I don't have the map in front of me, and I apologize.
But what I'm getting at is, if it's sitting here, here comes the road, could you not theoretically just...
Yeah, and that's what we were saying, and that was my concern though, is if you move it back to where the right-of-way line is, between the DOT right-of-way for 415 and the city right-of-way for Pine Ridge Estates, it puts it quite a bit back from where the left-turning vehicles are. So so they have a long distance to go before they get to the island, and so then it kind of creeps in where you're not expecting it, so.
I guess what I'm saying is, even if it's, I don't know what the measurements are, but even if it's not, if it's 50 foot now and it may have to be 35 to make that turning lane, and is it conceivable that a design can be made where you can still have an entrance like they're mentioning, even if it's not as long as they're mentioning, but it's still going to be the same general look?
Well, it would also have to be more narrow. If it's either 10 or 12 foot wide, and so you would only be left with 2 foot to 4 foot left in order to meet clear zone. So it would have to be a very narrow, almost a monument sign going the other direction. It couldn't be the type of sign that it is now.
Just real quick, could you send me who you talked to? Because as I've stated, nearly every time we voted on something on this project, I couldn't be more dissatisfied with how the DOT has interacted with us, and quite frankly, I think we've been used in this whole process. And so it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that they're saying whatever makes them look good to you with the information that you have. So I don't know what you said, but I'm inclined to believe it was whatever it would take to get you off the phone and make us look like the bad guy, but I don't know that for a fact, so I do want to know, and I want to find a solution here on the issue, but if you could could send me who you talked to and what they said, I would appreciate
I
that.
just sent it.
I mean, she actually called me twice to, go over it, so it's not just get me off the phone.
Okay, well,
So, and, I mean, our interpretation is that, just make it shorter and we'll work to maintain it, and we'll set up an association to maintain it. It's something we just don't want to see go away.
Well, one thing I want to state that did happen, that I want to make sure that is clear for everybody, is that we as a city we were proactive on this. We went and removed the limestone, we went and removed the signage to save it, because had we not gone up and done it, which clearly sent up a bunch of red flags because people thought that it was the city taking it out, which clearly it was. But had we not done that, the DOT would have showed up with a bulldozer and a dump truck, and that would have been gone. So we did try and save it. It is locked up out at the maintenance shop, and then there's also been some misinterpretation of potentially how this thing was let out. We've been discussing this project for over a year and a half. It's been part of our comp plan. It was in public meetings. We've had lots and lots and lots of discussions around this. So we didn't try and just sneak something through to the residents by any means. This has been discussed a lot in this forum and in minutes and in the paper and on the Des Moines and on the news channels, because they said that 415 was going to be shut down for the summer. So, the word was out there that we were going to do this. And if it didn't make it back to you guys, I do apologize, but I want to say that we did do a good job, and I want to applaud Public Works for being proactive in getting that limestone and signage out of there and putting it under lock and key so that it didn't just get removed and thrown away.
So is the only way that the public gets to know about these is if they seek out information on the website? Or
Well, what I can
is
say
there
to
an article
that,
in
I mean,
the
this is a problem that I think that everybody has, and I don't care which town you're with, but we do the most we can, and we meet our legal responsibilities, but we probably go above and beyond, up to and including our recording our meetings now that are published on a live stream. I mean, we really go above and beyond to try and notify our residents. There comes a point where residents have to go take it upon themselves, lack of a better term, to find out some of this information. But it was in the Des Moines Register. It was on, I know Channel 8 and 13 ran a story on this probably 3 months ago.
That island was going to come out, or
No, that this whole project was
Yeah,
going on.
well, that-
But it would have, but at that point, I mean, that would affect you as residents,
Sure.
then that would, encourage you to look into it a little bit.
Is this subject closed, or are there ways that we can, that you have the power to help us retain that?
What I'll say is, we're
Some
probably
point?
where we're at this point in time is to continue to work with our, work with our staff, see if we can't come up with some sort of a viable solution. But everything that we've seen thus far, that has come from both between the DOT and from engineering, the recommendation has been to not have that island in there. So if we're going to leave it in there, we need to come up with a viable solution that meets the requirements.
So who does not having the island serve? Because if the residents down there who bought their homes in good faith that was going to be maintained and it looked beautiful, wanted it, and still want it, taking it out, who does that serve? Because I thought
Well, it
the
would serve-
community is here to serve the
Well,
residents.
it would serve a variety of things. I mean, SUDAS is gonna, make sure that emergency equipment and vehicles and trucks, from a safety perspective, that we're meeting required sight distances and turning abilities. I mean, that's what we're trying to serve is.
But again, isn't it true that many communities have those islands?
Don't know.
I was just
Yeah.
in Minneapolis,
Could
down
be.
in Columbia, Missouri, and everywhere I turned, I saw them, and I thought to myself, Polk City has one, and we're not being told it's not safe, but these other communities have them and maintain them. They look gorgeous. They add an ambiance to the community that says, hey, we love our city. And that's what I think your job, to me, is to try to ensure people want to come here and live here. We spend a lot of tax dollars to be here, and we want to contribute. As volunteers, we'll do whatever it takes. What we're saying is, can we keep it? And what will you do to help us manage that? So.
Well, I think what I'm saying is we'll work as staff to see if there's a viable solution that meets the safety requirements and the requirements of SUDAS and everything that goes along with that. There's just certain things that we obviously have to meet, and us putting it back in when we've got a recommendation and a conclusion from the engineer that says they don't recommend it going in, well, then we have to come up. Now, this just came off the presses today,
Now,
so.
Jason, I mean, thank you, for your reactive letter, but what about a proactive letter saying, this was gonna happen? You can do a reactive letter saying, oh, by the way.
And I guess I appreciate that from that aspect. What I would say is that if we did that, we'd probably be sending out letters every week to residents all over the community. We had spoke about this last I think the initial conversation with the DOT probably started somewhere in 2015, wintertime, I think was probably when we first had that meeting down there. And, you know, various conversations took place around it. It's not like we were trying to hide it. I want to be very clear that we weren't trying to hide it.
Again, my comment is you spend a lot of money doing a reactive letter. You could have done a proactive one saying, you know, if you have a concern about this, come see us.
Does anybody on the board live down there, and do they feel like, you know, it's kind of an unfortunate situation to have it removed?
You want to talk to you? No.
I don't live in Pine Ridge.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Fine, he's not here.
So,
Did you have something?
Yeah, if I could, we're talking about things getting snuck through, that showed up being snuck through. It wasn't in any of the preliminary plats. It just one morning, boom, it was there. Well, they said it happened just like you. They got them everywhere. They told me that. Well, I got specifics, drove around. The only one I could find that was in the middle of the road was in Country Club Plaza in West Des Moines. The rest of them were all at the side of the road, every one they gave me. And I drove around, I think I looked at 10 or 12 of them in the suburbs. And at that time, we wanted to have them put it off to the side of the road. Anybody else remember that? And rest of the council decided, no, it's there, looks good, everything you say, we're just gonna leave it there. It was discussed about who was gonna maintain it, who was gonna mow it, who was gonna do all those things. We had assurances from the developer that the homeowners association were gonna take care of it. And they did a great job for the first 5 years.
Well,
And then
we've
as you
lived
had a
for 10
turnover.
years, and it's been maintained mostly, and a lot of people have helped. I don't think it's ever looked as bad as I hear some of you trying to suggest.
How long have you lived out there?
10 years.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody suggest that it looks bad, and that's
Oh, I
why
got a
we're
letter
taking it
that
out.
Well,
said that
but
it hadn't
I saw
been
that letter
maintained.
too.
And I don't know how long ago, but there was a time it did, didn't it, Mike?
Well, there may have been
Maybe the
times
letter
that
said
the
it.
weather's bad,
Well, I
or
think
that
what
some
happens
circumstance
is the
caused
fact
it not
that-
to look good. We don't know who's responsible for
I
it, you
think
know.
what happens though is I
That's our
think
question.
people don't, they want to know who's going to take care of it, so they put on hold. And when we moved there, they said, the person that developed that entire area was to maintain it.
Well, that in lies part of the problem.
So that's
Yeah.
where it started there, is when
Yeah.
when everybody assumed that somebody was gonna come in and maintain it, of course it didn't get maintained, because we all thought somebody was gonna show up to do it. I cleaned it up every single time 2 years ago.
And
So-
shame on us for not getting agreement, something in writing that said this was gonna happen,
Yeah,
this is what
that's
would
all
happen.
hindsight too, and that's why we want to do something for the future,
Yeah.
that we have a better understanding and that we can have it. We don't want to lose
Yeah.
that, and I would definitely be able to show you some places where they have those and get along fine. Actually, it slows the traffic down when you come up that hill or go down it, because you do have to be a little more cautious in driving around the curve than the opposite. The other corner is a lot more quickly turned, and they do go down the hill. So I don't think that it's a hazard at all. I just think it's a problem from a standpoint of maintenance. And if we can find a way to convince you that we'll do the work to keep it maintained, then I would think in order to try to create the kind of city I hope we have here, that could be a possibility.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I personally don't care if it's in the middle of the road.
Thank you.
I could care less. But what I'm saying is, it wasn't done properly to begin with. And if you would give me that list, because I got nothing else to do now, I'll drive around and look at them, see if I can find
Sure.
them.
One of my neighbors.
But I did, I
yesterday-
probably went to a dozen different addresses where I told they were, and they were all on the side of the road except for the one in Country Club Plaza, and it's huge. The island makes that, it looks like a football field compared to what that one up there was.
Go to
Hi,
Hankin,
Rob.
I'll take you east to Interstate 35 and I'll show you some gorgeous entryways that are in the middle. I'll take you right to it.
In the middle of the interstate.
In the middle
In the middle of
of
the
the street, east of the
development.
interstate,
The
there's some
entrance.
developments. East of the interstate, over on the other side.
Well, just let me know, I'll go take a look at them.
I guess I would ask that rather than we look at Google Maps and aerial views, can we request staff to measure this and so truly lay out an option for us? I mean, I'll be happy to go take measurements if that's what it takes, if staff doesn't have time to do it.
What I would suggest is you guys come back with something. What would make you happy? Because from what I'm hearing, no matter what we do, isn't gonna be good.
I don't think that's accurate, Gary. I don't
That's
think.
true. I mean, we wouldn't be here if we didn't care, and we want to try to work with you.
Is there an option to put it on private property?
We haven't addressed that at this point.
We wouldn't be as happy with that, but that's an option.
I mean, that's the recommendation that we've seen from, you know, the people who've looked at it thus far.
Couple
Here,
questions.
Rob,
Is
go ahead.
SUDAS, is that a recommendation or a requirement or law? Or
The preferred is a recommendation, the acceptable is a minimum standard.
A legal standard or-
And Amy could probably
And
speak
from
to
a,
that.
from a liability standpoint, you want to make sure that it meets with SUDAS.
And on another note, you know, for years, since I've been here, all we've heard from Pine Ridge is we need a turning lane, we need a different crossing there, all safety concerns. That's what we are trying to accomplish out there. And in all fairness to Jason, to address your concerns, there's only so much as a city, aside from going door to door to door to door to door with a paper, that we can do. Every one of these projects we do up here have a whole multitude of things that go on with them. And you would get zero done in this community. I mean, it could spare you a lot of time here, but I can tell you in the last year, I've had things where I've talked to people the day before a council meeting and explain things, and they've come to the meeting here on the police issue, and it's almost as if I was just talking in a dark closet somewhere. So we can do everything and then some, but we can't possibly, if you want to have anything in the city get done, go through the nuts and bolts of every single thing, and where you can always give you the information. But I don't think, in all fairness, I understand where you're coming about from being proactive, but I don't know as a city, any other city that I've ever heard or talked of that does more to push information out there. And no matter how much we do, somebody says it's not enough. So I apologize for that. This was the best interest of Pine Ridge at hand, and I'm, just like Ron said, I'm all for finding, as you probably heard earlier, a solution to make this still work. I don't think anything's ever dead. But at the same time, you gotta realize that the people up here aren't working against you, even though it may be kind of rocky road right now. Some of this stuff, like the memo, I haven't even seen the memo that Gary just got. These are things that are still happening as we speak, so we're not giving up on you is what I'm getting at, but it's some things when there's multitude of different funding sources coming in aren't as easy for us to just say we're gonna do it because other people are doing the project.
Well, it seems like two separate issues. We're all, of course, for safety. That would never be something anyone would argue against. And if we can have both, that's what we want. We want safety, but we're questioning whether that island couldn't be made so it's just as safe as any other city's island into a small neighborhood. It's not like it isn't being done other places, so it seems to me there is evidence that it can be done. But what is it we have to do to encourage and have the council and engineers be able to?
Well, and I think it looks great. I'm not disagreeing with anything any of you were saying. I think it looks great. It'd be nice to keep it. What I'm saying is as we're learning new things, even just before this meeting, it's still, and it's, I hate to say infancy, but it is. Some of this is things that came, those of us up here at the very last minute.
Sure.
You know, we knew we were gonna have a turning lane and we knew we were gonna have lights, but it didn't. Some of these other ones weren't so evident until, oh my God, it's happening. So, hence Mike saved everything. So it's not like we can't go reconstruct it, you know.
So you two live on Whispering Pine. Is there anybody that lives on Pine Ridge Drive?
Well, our address is Whispering Pine, but we're on the corner of Whispering Pine and
Okay, I'm just curious, not that anyone's opinion is more valid than the other, but people that are closer up there, have you
I
spoken with them?
did go knock on the door of the one gal that's on the north side of the street, and she says, wow, I didn't know they were gonna take it out. I mean, she was unhappy about it,
Okay.
but that's all the further we've gone. And then there was a person that was one house further east talking, I think, when they were out there removing it, they were talking to you guys about it, and he was surprised it was being moved too, but, you know, beyond that, that's all the farther I
Yeah.
go. Because I work with
And
Gary.
there is a HOA in Pine Ridge now that you're all a part of?
No.
There isn't.
We have covenants, but it doesn't mean anything.
No.
They'd have to come up with some way, and, an easement agreement, some maintenance agreement in favor of the city that would, where they agree to take care of it if we are able to work something out.
And that's not anything that we're not opposed to working on.
Yeah.
And I want to clear something up too on this letter that went out. And although you know, I know you stated it was reactive, and it was somewhat reactive, but it was also after you came in and voiced the concern. Gary and I spoke about it, and I asked, can we get something sent to all of the residents down there in order to let them know? And one could say that was reactive, sure, but I also believe that we were trying to get in front of it with some other people as well who may not have known, and also to state our side of it and to let people know, because I think there was a misunderstanding that it's the city going in taking this out, and really this does stem back to the DOT's right-of-way, and that's what kicked this off from where we are. I don't think that any of us are against having that in there, but based on what we have seen so far, and again with the memo that just came to us tonight from Snyder Engineering, and with regard to what legal has told us so far, you know, obviously we've got to be very cautious about what we can allow to happen just because we want to have something aesthetic down there, when engineering and legal saying no, you don't want to do that. Again, we tried to save the stone, we tried to save all of that stuff with the interest, and I think that was what was initially discussed, was could this be put potentially on private property? I haven't heard back, I don't know that anybody has, whether or not that's an option. And I think that we also discussed it internally here, that if it would go on private property, that we'd be willing to come help construct it and do it at cost to the city, you know, to put some of this stuff back. So I think that, you know, we're trying to find a viable solution, but I you know, obviously from what we've seen so far, we're limited, obviously, I think is what I'm saying.
There is some misconception on our part, you know, we saw all the markings, the white lines, the big, the orange lines. We just assumed that's where it was stopping, thus the sign would be saved. At least that was my interpretation. You know, that was my interpretation, that the whole thing wouldn't be taken out.
It's,
I just wanted to, because I answer the phone and obviously I address a lot of different things in a variety of topics, I've actually had several comments the other side of this topic as well. And I know there were folks that stopped when Public Works was disassembling the sign that were actually applauding that the sign was being removed. So I think it's important to know that although there are residents that definitely like it, I think there might be just as many that maybe aren't here or maybe aren't voicing their concerns as loudly that are actually happy that it's being removed. There was a few women, I can't give you names, I'm sorry, I didn't think that it would become an issue, that had helped over the years through volunteer work to go up there and pull weeds and do things that were happy they weren't going to have to do that anymore. Now again, I don't want to mislead anybody, I've heard both sides, but I want to make sure we understand that there are two sides, that the phone has rang the other direction, that people did respond to the letter the other way, so I think it's important for us to
Well, that would be great data to take, to know what their true statistics are. I mean, we could do a petition, I wouldn't be opposed at all to canvassing that neighborhood and find out how many people are opposed versus for it. The people I've talked to are definitely upset that it's gone. And if those ladies were cleaning it, they must have wanted to have some pride in it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even make sense to me that they would go up there and take time to help make it look pretty and then say we don't want it.
Yeah, and I think it's just the recurring of not wanting, and you know, people talk.
I found one person that wants it to go forever. Well, everybody I talked to want to keep it. I've not heard anybody say good riddance like yours.
So I think where we are right now is because we've well exceeded probably a time
We
limit.
appreciate you listening.
I think is where, you know, what we'll do is, I think as staff will look at it, I would encourage, you know, there to be some open dialogue. The project's starting any day. I mean, I'm surprised DOT's not up there today doing work, and it's going to run clear through October. So to say that there'll probably be anything taken care of yet this calendar year because of what you'll be up against time-wise, I think we'd all be fooling ourselves if we thought just realistically that there's going to be anything done between now and the end of the year by the time the DOT is done with their project. I think that's reality.
So will the street stay looking like it is then with those curbs and the, what are you saying?
The street
The street itself that runs with the island in it, is it going to stay that way till next year?
I mean, all the dirt that's there.
No, that's going to be gone. That'll disappear.
Okay, again, and that's where I think the conflict is. The DOT says they don't have to have that all gone. You're saying you have to have it all gone. I guess that's where the initial, the solution needs to come up immediately.
I think you're,
Yes.
both
copy.
missing here
Okay.
It's gonna go up to the DOT right away at
Yeah.
this point.
at this
Right.
point.
I
right.
guess that's what I would
Which
need.
leaves about 8 feet.
Okay.
And again, so I don't know what you're told on the phone, but they're doing this work. So we're not doing anything other than preparing for the work that they need to do. So to say that we're taking things out because we want to take things out, which is I think what you're alluding to, is inaccurate. And again, I want to get to the heart of the matter with the DOT and not to beat a drum that I've killed
Robert,
4
I was
times
saying,
over on this.
You know, from our DOT manager in Grimes was that the whole thing was not gonna be removed. That was a request of this council and this staff.
Which is inaccurate. That was
Okay.
not a request of this council. From this council, that
It
was
a
not a
request from
request
Polk
of this
City.
council.
It was a request from Polk City. Now, whether that's staff or else whether that's city council, it's a request from Polk City. And I
Not
just
from
wanna
this
make sure
table.
that.
I
as of
never
this-
heard that once.
Factually inaccurate. I don't even know how we would do that.
Okay.
How we
I just
could do
want to
that.
be on record as being stated then, that at this point is you are not going to remove any more of the median beyond the DOT right away until we have a point to get this resolved.
I don't think we want to state that until we're able to look at the construction agreement and everything that we've got in
Well, but
it.
if the DOT is going to start tomorrow, you can say stop at your right away.
Okay, I don't want to state on record that we're not going to take it out until we have a chance to review the construction record and we can work internally here to make sure of that. I don't think any of us are in a position to state that that's not going to happen. If they show up there tonight, I don't think any of us are in a position, correct me if I'm wrong.
I wouldn't be able to
That I'm not
tell
gonna,
you.
yeah, we're not gonna put our neck out on that. I mean, the DOT is who has the construction agreement on this whole entire project. We don't. We don't have any part of the construction project.
Like you said, it's interesting as I get two different stories. It's very interesting.
Well, I would challenge you to give us the opportunity, instead of running with something that you think plays into your narrative, to put yourself in our position. We tried to do something that, again, people have been asking for with turning lanes. That's the most dangerous intersection, I think, in town right now, along with if you extend out to the marina, which we tried to get done, and you extend out to what's the name of the road out to
McBride.
Sandpiper?
McBride.
McBride Drive, which they didn't want to do because whatever. But that was the crux of this whole thing, making it safer. And an aesthetic island is certainly tertiary to that objective. I still want to, if we can, maintain that. But it's our job to eliminate any potential hazards that we have. And I think we've done that. If we can do that while maintaining that island that apparently you moved to the area because of, then let's do it. But at least give us the opportunity to hear our side of the story rather than going with one side and assuming that we're misleading you somehow.
Careful about maintaining, because we're not gonna maintain it.
Whatever. Play a game of East
Dennis,
Fish.
if you would give me your email, I will send you that report and ask you to take a look at some alternatives.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time today. Sorry it took so long to.
Thank you for coming.
Next item is consent agenda. Any additions, corrections? Take a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second. Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6 is new business. Under item 6, item 1. Consider motion to approve resolution 2016-63 approving the construction drawings for sanitary sewer and water main only for Lost Lakes Estates Plat 3.
Yeah, and Erin over next here, if you have any questions, it's a 30-lot subdivision just north of Lost Lakes Estates Plat 2. Again, we're looking to help the developer keep the project moving forward as we're working out some other issues that are related to drainage, storm sewer, paving, some of that kind of stuff. But the sanitary sewer and water, that gets the DNR permits going, and obviously the sanitary sewer is the deepest, so that's where you start with your construction. So again, allows the developers, contractors to get rolling.
Questions for Kathleen or Aaron? Motion?
Move to approve resolution 2016-63.
Second?
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-64 approving change order number 1 in the amount of $2,931 to Howry Construction for the Davis and Tyler intersection reconstruction project.
So moved.
Second.
It's easy enough. Roll call, please.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, consider motion to approve Resolution 2016-65, approving partial payment application number 2, final prior to retention release in the amount of $4,219.90 to Howry Construction for the Davis and Tyler intersection reconstruction project.
So moved, and I'll second that with saying they did a great job.
Did you make the motion and second?
Call it what you want.
All right. Take a second.
I'll do the real second.
You'll do the real second. All right. Roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd like to echo that. They did a fantastic job. Item 7, Mayor's Report. Reminder, Four Seasons Festival this weekend. And I did get official notification on Sunday that we do have convertibles lined up. And I would ask for you all to be up on the corner of Washington and Hillcrest at around that 9:30 to 9:45 time frame. So,
I think you got a dentist appointment.
well, you cancel your dentist appointment. I was going to send you an email, but I thought it'd be better to just tell you in person that you're in the parade.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I look forward to seeing you all there. That's all I have. Councilman Sargent.
So the other thing I had a conversation yesterday, and I believe the person that I was speaking with is going to come here to one of the next couple meetings, but he was asking, bike rider, we don't have anything. I know it's a little bit less direct since we're not technically on some of the bike paths, but brought up the idea with some of the stuff going on in the square to have like a bike filling station and some other stuff. I don't know if this kind of fits in your wheelhouse, Dan, with some of the things that you're involved with, but I think that's something that it made a lot of sense to me from what I heard from him. It would be something that wouldn't be a huge cost to us, so to put in and maintain, if I can use that word correctly this time around. But something that would be a nice addition to use at the square, have people go to the businesses. So.
Are these portable stations like Perry has?
I don't know.
Yeah, I had, I think they're like $2,500 or something. I had John looking into them, I don't know, a year or so ago. I don't know where that went, but I think I was trying, hopefully, trying to get them done. Have somebody
I was
else pay
thinking
for it.
more of a permanent.
Yeah, no, these are permanent. They're really cool, actually.
Okay.
That they've actually got air. It's a whole tire repair station. I know there was a big Perry
We
dentist
just
store.
did one in Woodward.
What?
There was
Yeah.
a Duro
Yeah.
fix-it station, is what
Yeah,
they
they're
call it.
real
It was
cool.
about
They got wrenches.
$1,800.
Yeah, they want, a couple grand. They got wrenches.
And it has
everything.
a pump.
Yeah, they're really neat.
So that's where I was going. If
Okay.
anybody has any good
Yeah.
examples, and Kathy, maybe we can talk, or Dan, if you've got, with the.
We'll have a meeting next week, I'll bring it up then. I'm sure it's something that doesn't have to be reinvented.
Thank you.
These ones that are out there are pretty cool. Ron?
Fix-it station.
The only thing I have is I've had several conversations with Mrs. Murray about the coyotes. I've met with Chief. I've talked to everybody about it, and right now she seems satisfied. She's not happy, but she liked the answers that she was given, and that's,
Thank you for talking.
yeah. Like I said, that's all I got to do now.
Is that the lady with the chickens?
Yeah. And and also, she's decided now with talking to people that it's a gray fox and not a coyote.
You got a fox problem and a coyote problem?
Sure we do.
Got a red one that goes all over town.
Yeah.
That's it.
I actually
think
had
that's
that,
gonna be-
I actually had that red one looking in the door up at school one morning.
Mr. Lane?
I just want to echo on how good a job that the Howard Construction did, and make sure that our engineer, make sure that they get copies of any project bid documents going forth.
Absolutely.
When your first change order on a project is to cross-reference actual measured amounts from estimates, that's a pretty darn good job on everybody's part, so I want to say kudos to everybody. And the other thing, not to keep beating a dead horse, but before we meet again, there will be a vote of some sort at Metro Waste on the commingling, whether to defer or to implement. I've been saying all along from the survey we went out and whatever, it's about 6 of one, half dozen of the others. So if there's no objection with the rest of you, I will vote yes for either a delay or for implementing. okay with it,
As
but,
opposed to what?
as opposed to saying no, that we don't want to delay it, or no, that we don't want to approve it, or start doing it.
Sounds good.
I think there's a big push, particularly on Polk County's representative. He believes this is a political dynamo, whatever you want to describe it. I don't really see it as having the potential to derail people from their elected offices, but he thinks it has that potential.
A number of those things going around right now. Councilman Dvorak is out of town. Mr. Morgan? City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been talking a lot about Highway 415, and I did get word late last week that the patching with the, that will start at night with the lane closures, will start July 18th. Maybe. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Attorney's report.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Engineer.
Nothing.
Public Works.
Nothing.
Technology.
Two quick ones.
Killing me.
Was going to say that the lakefront address change is officially 100% complete as of July 1st. I haven't heard anything from either residents that were involved in that, so everything seems to have been going pretty good there. The other thing was, once again, kind of tailing on the whole 415 theme for the night. We have a page officially live on the website that details where we're at, where IDOT, I should say, is at, kind of, just to kind of once again connect with residents as best we can concerning that project, which is something that we're trying to, strengthen our relationship with the IDOT. And then we also have a social media post that went out tonight that is quickly reaching already over 3,000 posts, and it's only been not even 3 hours. So
Yeah, I saw that email and the Facebook and the Twitter and whatever else you sent us. Good job on that.
that's all.
Thanks, Jake.
Besides the fact that I had those bike stations in my budget, my initial budget.
See,
It wasn't obviously
you know what I'm talking
Well played, Jake.
Finance.
Nothing.
Fire Department. Police Department.
Only I have to add to what I submitted for the minutes was the new cars out here, if we want to take a look at them. I just got back to the strike today.
Got it here in time for the parade.
Yep.
Yeah. Library.
Nothing.
No citizen liaison.
Still my favorite budget of the year, buddy.
Library. Until next year when she asks for a new building. Take a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
It's my, yeah.